أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا
الحمد لله الولي الحميد الغفور الودود ذي البطش الشديد الفعال لما يريد ما شاء كان ولم يشأ لم يكن يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وخائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور وهو ذو العرش المجيد وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله البشير النذير والسراج المنير سيد ولد آدم يوم القيامة صاحب الحوض المورود وقائد الغر المحجلين صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وعلى أصحابه الغر الميامين وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن الوصية المبذولة لي ولكم عباد الله هي تقوى الله في الغيب والشهادة والغضب والرضا والمنشط والمكره. فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين. أيها الإخوة المسلمون, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the Muslim community and the Muslim society is one which is based upon principles, morals, and a code of conduct which has been determined by the Creator of the heavens and the earth. And from the values and principles upon which the Muslim community and society is built upon is that of having mercy for one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes the believers, رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ, that they are merciful to one another. It is upon this principle that we find the Muslim society is built. It is upon this principle that the Muslim civilization grew, through mercy and care and affection for one another. And this is how civilizations are formed. For civilizations are formed not just by mere individuals, but by the values, the akhlaq, the shiyam, the values and the suluk and the behavior and the moral conduct by which defines every civilization. And from the components of each society and each community, we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed us with certain rights that we must observe for one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created each society min dhakarin wa untha, from male and female. And He has given each its rights and responsibilities. And with regards to the woman in the society, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has indeed honored her. He has raised her station, and He has given a great deal of respect and honor to each individual female member of the society, whether she is a mother by which paradise lies underneath her feet, whether it be a wife in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Khayrukum khayrukum li ahlihi wa ana khayrukum li ahli," that the best of you are those who are best to their wives. Whether it be a daughter, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that whoever has been given these daughters, who have been given daughters, then indeed they will be a barrier for them from the hellfire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated the status of a woman, especially during a time where women were oppressed in the Arabian Peninsula in the pre-Islamic period, and they were given no respect, no honor, and no dignity. Islam came and changed that. However, my dear brothers, what we find is that there are certain characteristics which oppose that of rahmah and shafaqah, which oppose that of mercy and compassion, and even insaniyya, and the meaning of being a human being. And these are the qualities that we sadly find in some communities, even within the Muslim community. Physical abuse, domestic abuse is something which is rampant in the world today. How many times have imams and scholars faced and received phone calls and messages where women are complaining about their husbands, whether it be about the physical abuse that they face, or the verbal abuse that they receive. Now, we all know within our religion that there are certain ways in which a man can discipline. The purpose of this khutbah is not to speak about those detailed fiqhi issues. That's for another occasion. But in our religion, we do not use our religion. We do not use our religion to satisfy our abuse of power and authority. This is not from the deen. And we have to remember that domestic abuse isn't always physical. Sometimes coercive control, an act or a pattern of assault, of threats, humiliation, intimidation. These are also other forms of abuse and harm, where you frighten your wife, you intimidate her, such that she feels that she is living in a prison. This controlling behavior is designed to make a person dependent by isolating them from support, exploiting their weakness, depriving them of any sense of independence, and regulating their everyday behavior. This is something that we see time and time again within the Muslim community. And this is contrary to the teachings of Islam and contrary to the way that the Prophet ﷺ behaved with his wives. Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim, they reported in their Sahih that Al-Aqra ibn Habis, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he saw the Prophet ﷺ hugging and kissing Al-Hasan ibn Ali, the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ. And so this man, he said, Ya Rasulullah, أَتُقَبِّلُونَ صِبْيَانَكُمْ? Do you kiss your children, your grandchildren? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, yes. So the man, he replied and he said, إِنَّ لِي عَشَرًا مِنَ الْوَلَدِ مَا قَبَّلْتُ وَاحِدًا مِنْهُمْ. I have 10 children. I have never kissed a single one of them. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ لَا يَرْحَمْ لَا يُرْحَمْ. That the one who doesn't show any mercy will not receive any mercy, meaning he will not receive any mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he forbade men from striking their wives unrightfully. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا تضربوا إماء الله. Do not strike the female servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning do not strike your wives. Aisha radiallahu anha, she reported about the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ما ضرب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم شيئا قط بيده. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam never struck a single thing with his hand. ولا امرأة, nor did he strike a woman. ولا خادما, nor did he strike a servant. إلا أن يجاهد في سبيل الله. Unless he was striving in the way of Allah, unless he went into battle. Otherwise, she said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't strike a single thing. She didn't even say a person. He didn't strike a single thing with his hand. He never struck his wives. He never struck a servant unless it was in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning he was in battle. When women would come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam complaining about how vicious and how harsh their husbands were towards them, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he became upset and he went and he assembled the people and he said, لَقَدْ طَافَ بِآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ نِسَاءٌ كَثِيرٌ يَشْكُونَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ لَيْسَ أُولَٰئِكَ بِخِيَارِكُمْ. He said, the night which just went by, many women would come to the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam complaining about their husbands. They are not the best amongst you. لَيْسَ أُولَٰئِكَ بِخِيَارِكُمْ. These are not the best from amongst you. And the wording of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is very interesting. He said that they are not the best amongst you, which if anyone understands that in our religion there are things which might be permissible. There are things which might be disliked. There are things which might be encouraged. And there are things which might be an obligation. In our religion, if something is permissible, it doesn't necessarily mean that this gives us the green light to engage in it in whichever way we please. And this is an important lesson, my dear brothers. If we want to follow in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then let us listen to the description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never struck a single person in his life. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Istawsu bin nisa'i khayra, fa innahunna khuliqna min dhil'in, fa inna a'waja shay'in fi dhil'i a'lahu." The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, act kindly towards women, For they were created from a rib, and the most crooked part of the rib is its top part. فَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تُقِيمُهُ كَسَرْتَهُ. So if you attempt to straighten it, you will break it. وَإِنْ تَرَكْتَهُ لَمْ يَزَلْ أَعْوَجْ. And if you leave it as it is, it will remain crooked. فَاسْتَوْصُوا بِالنِّسَاءِ خَيْرًا. And so therefore be kind and act kindly towards them. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the problems that we find within the Muslim community, and I am addressing here the younger brothers in particular and the fathers as well, is that when a person wants to get married, when a man wants to get married, or when a father helps his son get married, we find that there is a lack of education, a lack of tarbiyah, a lack of advice given to the son in terms of how he should be with his wife. And often many young men, they go into marriage not having any relationship with a woman beforehand, not knowing that a woman is created very differently to a man, not knowing how to deal when she becomes emotional, not knowing what to do when she is very sensitive towards her feelings. So as a result, it becomes a shock to the man when he becomes married, and he realizes he has married someone who is very different to him. So it's very important to the young men who are looking to get married that they learn about the way the Prophet ﷺ was with his wives. Learn that men and women are different. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. The male is not like the female. And if you are a father, then take your son, sit him down and educate him about the rights of a wife. Educate him about what it means to be a husband. Warn him about abusing his wife. Warn him about not oppressing his wife, because this is a reality that we see day in and day out, my dear brothers. And if you have daughters as well, you don't want your daughters to be oppressed by their husbands. And so let us, inshallah, educate ourselves about this reality. Let us educate ourselves about the way the Prophet ﷺ was with his wives. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from the ruhama, make us from the merciful. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our homes with rahmah and shafaqa and hilm and forbearance. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, one of the ways that we can inshallah remedy this problem, I've already mentioned it in the first part of the khutbah, is that we ought to educate ourselves. Young men need to educate themselves about what it means to truly be a husband and to take care of a woman. Fathers need to educate their children, and in particular their sons. And of course, we need to educate our daughters about what it means to be a wife and being a dutiful wife. This is one thing. But secondly, there needs to be greater support within our communities towards those women who are suffering. So if you are aware of circumstances where women are suffering, whether it be your daughter, whether it be your sister, whether it be your mother, one should be sensitive towards that and try and seek help and try and seek assistance, whether it be from imams or from scholars or from masajid. But we should be brave enough to offer support to people who are facing such difficulties. Understand, my dear brothers, that we should not exploit our religion for our own ill circumstances and for our own bad conduct and akhlaq. Often what we find is that a lot of people, they grow up in very difficult environments where they might have seen and witnessed abuse themselves as young children. And without realizing it, they have taken on those traits of those dhalimin, of those wrongdoers. And so it becomes very difficult for them to free themselves from the shackles of such a abusive attitude towards their wives. And sometimes it's psychological issues as well, and problems as well, where people, without realizing, they have personality disorders, or without realizing that they have issues with trust, or they have issues with how they abuse their authority and power. These are things we need to educate ourselves upon, my dear brothers. Remember the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said, "Irham fil ard, man fil ard, yarhamkum man fis sama." Be merciful to those who are upon this earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be merciful towards you. Offer that support for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. That it was only due to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bestowed upon you, that you were soft and gentle towards them. If you were harsh and hard-hearted, then they would have dispersed from around you. So it's through this rahmah that we find that we bring ourselves closer to one another. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guides us to the best of akhlaq, for none guides to that except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma inna nas'aluka an tahdiyana li ahsani al-akhlaqi wal-a'mal, fa innahu la yahdi illa anta ya rabbal alameen. Allahumma farrij hamma al-mahmoomin, ونفس كرب المكروبين واقض الدين عن المدينين واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أصلح أحوال المسلمين في كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم أصلح أحوال المسلمين في كل مكان يا حي يا قيوم يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا وأنزل على قلوبنا الرحمة والشفقة واجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقم الصلاة. And just a reminder that there was a brother whose mother sadly passed away in Libya recently. Please remember her in your du'as. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon her and all of the mawta from amongst the Muslimin. Ameen ya Rabb. Can you move to your left as much as you possibly can, please? Move to your left as much as you can. There are a lot of people waiting outside. Jazakumullah khair.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا استقيموا سووا صفوفكم. Straighten your lines. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا البلد آمنا وجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام. رب إنهن أضللن كثيرا من الناس فمن تبعني فإنه مني ومن عصاني فإنك غفور رحيم. ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة فاجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم وارزقهم من الثمرات لعلهم يشكرون. ربنا إنك تعلم ما نخفي وما نعلن وما يخفى على الله من شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. الحمد لله الذي وهب لي على الكبر إسماعيل وإسحاق إن ربي لسميع الدعاء. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يقولون ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
كيف حالك يا سيدي الشيخ؟ كيف امورك؟ ان شاء الله تكون طيب. الله يبارك لك. دين الشيخ.
For you, brother. Inshallah. Yes, long time you've been away.
To give vocals, yeah. Is it today?
Sheikh, السلام عليكم. How are you? Fine. اليوم ثلاثة.
يوم ثلاثة
أي جمعة؟ تعال شنو مكاتب البيت؟ اليوم جولاي
3 جولاي
يوم 3 جولاي
معلش السمع
لا عشان لا تشرب. بس انت ما
شوفها كده وبعد كده لانه في واحد
هذه لا توقف انت هذه 9 جولاي. زين بس جايز
يوم هذا ويوم بعد.
يا اليوم حسب عدد
حسب الرؤية.
حسب رؤية
الله يبارك فيك.